Have you ever watched someone you love slowly slip away without even realizing it? One day they're smiling at the dinner table, cracking jokes like they always did. Then, over the weeks, something changes. They start eating less, speaking less, sleeping more. You chalk it up to old age. They're just getting older, you tell yourself. But what if these aren't just harmless signs of aging? What if they're the body's quiet way of saying goodbye, subtle signals that time is winding down? I once met a man who lost his mother after a year of these changes. She had stopped going on her daily walks, no longer asked about her grandchildren, and spent hours sitting in silence. "If only I had known," he said, "I would have done things differently." The truth is, death in old age rarely comes suddenly. More often, the body starts whispering its farewells, months, sometimes a year in advance. But those whispers are easy to miss. That's why this video is so important. In the next few minutes, I'll share with you 5 subtle but powerful signs that an elderly person may be in their final year of life. These signs aren't meant to scare you. They're here to help you see what most people overlook, so you can offer comfort, presence, and dignity when it matters most. These are the same signs I've seen time and again in my 10+ years working with seniors and their families. So I ask you, have you ever noticed changes in someone close to you that just didn't feel right? Maybe a shift in their energy, a lack of interest in things they once loved? If so, pause for a moment and drop a comment below. Your story might help another family recognize the signs before it's too late. And if this video speaks to your heart, please take a second to like it, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell icon, so you'll never miss insights that could truly make a difference. Now, let's begin with the first, and perhaps most overlooked, sign: sudden, unintentional weight loss. Sudden, unexplained weight loss. Have you ever noticed someone close to you slowly shrinking, physically, right before your eyes? It might begin subtly. Their favorite pants start sagging, their face appears more hollow, and their shoulders seem to droop just a bit more than before. You serve them a warm, home-cooked meal, and they barely take a few bites. "I'm not very hungry," they say with a gentle smile, and you assume it's just part of aging. But after over a decade of working closely with elderly patients and their families, I can tell you, unintentional weight loss in seniors is never just getting old. In fact, it's often one of the earliest and most overlooked signs that the body is preparing for its final chapter. As we approach the end of life, the body instinctively begins to conserve energy. Digestion slows, hunger cues weaken, food may lose its flavor, and meals once savored suddenly feel unnecessary. But this isn't a choice, it's a biological shift. And it comes at a cost: the loss of muscle, strength, immune protection, and stability. I once cared for a woman whose family thought she was dieting. In 6 months, she had lost nearly 15 pounds. By the time they realized it wasn't intentional, she needed assistance just to sit up in bed. That's why this kind of weight loss should never be ignored. It's not just about appearance. It's a warning that the body is shifting into a more fragile state. Yet families often respond by pleading with their loved ones to just eat more. Unfortunately, that rarely works. What does help is compassion, offering soft, nutrient-rich meals in small portions, encouraging sips of water, and being emotionally present. Your patience and understanding can bring more comfort than any supplement ever could. So if your loved one is losing weight without explanation, don't overlook it. Acknowledge it. Because recognizing this sign early may give you the chance to adjust care, create space for comfort, and spend more meaningful moments together. And now that you understand this first silent signal, let's move into the next. Another powerful clue that often goes unnoticed: a deep, lasting fatigue that no amount of rest can truly fix. 2. Deep, lasting fatigue and physical weakness. Have you ever seen someone once full of life struggle just to lift themselves out of bed? They were the kind of person who never missed a morning walk, always had a spark in their eyes, until one day, even brushing their hair or walking across the room feels like climbing a mountain. This isn't laziness. This isn't just slowing down. This is the body speaking softly, signaling that something deeper is happening. In my years of working with aging adults, one of the most telling signs I've observed in the final year of life is a persistent, overwhelming fatigue that rest simply can't cure. It's not about being tired after a long day. It's about exhaustion that lingers, that seeps into the bones, and makes even the smallest tasks feel impossible. As the body enters its later stages, it naturally starts redirecting energy. Organs slow down. Circulation weakens. Muscles receive less oxygen. The heart, which once beat strong and steady, may begin to lose its rhythm. And so the person starts sleeping more, longer naps during the day, earlier bedtimes, struggling to stay alert even during conversations. You might notice them sitting still for hours, eyes closed, not quite asleep, but too tired to speak. I remember one gentleman, once a sharp dresser and lively talker, who started missing meals just because the act of walking to the kitchen wore him out. It's heartbreaking to witness, and even more painful if you don't understand what's happening. Families often misread this as depression or disinterest. But it's important to recognize that this deep fatigue isn't a choice, it's a biological shift. The best thing you can do? Don't push them to do more. Instead, create moments of rest and peace. Sit with them. Listen. Let them feel your presence without expectations. Because in these quiet moments, love speaks the loudest. If someone you love is experiencing this kind of deep, lasting weakness, take it seriously. This is a time for gentle care, not pressure. And now that we've explored this second critical sign, let's look at the third, one that often creeps in quietly but changes everything: confusion, disorientation, and emotional withdrawal. 3. Confusion, disorientation, and emotional withdrawal. Have you ever sat across from someone you love and suddenly felt like they didn't recognize you? Not because of illness or dementia, but because they seemed far away, emotionally and mentally, even though they were right in front of you. That moment, the quiet pause, the blank look, the repeated question, can be one of the most heartbreaking signs that something deeper is happening. In my experience working with aging individuals, one of the most telling yet misunderstood signs that someone may be entering their final year of life is a noticeable shift in cognition and social engagement. You may notice them forgetting familiar names, repeating stories, or getting lost in conversations. One day, they forget what day it is. The next, they don't recognize their own living room. And soon, they begin withdrawing from the people and activities they once loved. This isn't simply old age catching up with them. As blood flow and oxygen delivery to the brain slows down, something that naturally occurs in the body's final stages, cognitive function begins to fade. The mind starts to drift, often in and out of clarity, as though the world around them becomes a little more distant each day. You might notice moments of sharpness followed by stretches of silence or confusion. And even if they don't seem fully aware of your presence, they still feel it, which is why your patience and gentleness matter more than ever. One woman I worked with had always loved hosting Sunday dinners. But in her final months, she began retreating from the table, unsure of what to say or how to follow the conversation. Her family thought she was depressed. In reality, her brain was beginning to say goodbye before her body did. It's easy to misread this as moodiness or emotional detachment. But the truth is, this confusion and withdrawal is often the mind's way of slowing down as the body prepares to let go. So don't try to bring them back. Instead, meet them where they are. Sit quietly beside them. Speak softly. Let your presence be the comfort. And now, having recognized this emotional and cognitive shift, let's move to another physical warning sign: frequent infections and wounds that no longer heal like they used to. 4. Frequent infections and slow healing. Have you noticed that someone you love is getting sick more often, catching every little cold, taking longer to recover from even a small scrape or bruise? Maybe their skin seems fragile, wounds linger, or infections return more frequently than before. What once healed in days now takes weeks. At first glance, it might not seem serious. But beneath the surface, these changes are powerful signs that the body is beginning to lose its ability to protect and repair itself. In my years caring for seniors, this pattern is one I've seen time and again, and it's often overlooked until it becomes critical. As the body approaches its final stages, the immune system weakens significantly. Blood circulation slows, white blood cell production decreases, and organs don't function as efficiently as they used to. This means cuts stay open longer, bruises become more pronounced, and the body, once resilient, begins to surrender to even minor threats. One elderly man I worked with developed a small sore on his ankle from his shoes rubbing against the skin. It didn't look like much at first, but weeks passed, and it refused to heal. That sore turned into a deep wound, and despite antibiotics and ointments, it worsened. His immune system no longer had the strength to fight. His family was devastated, not by the sore itself, but by what it revealed, that his body was slowly shutting down. And infections don't always look the way we expect. Seniors may not spike high fevers or complain of pain. Instead, they might seem more tired than usual, more confused, or simply lose interest in eating. That's why even subtle changes in behavior deserve attention. If you're seeing repeated infections or lingering wounds, don't just treat the symptoms. Listen to what the body is trying to say. Focus on comfort, cleanliness, hydration, and gentle care. At this stage, relief is often more valuable than aggressive treatment. Because when the body begins to let go, the goal isn't always to cure, but to care. Now, as we move to the fifth and final sign, pay close attention. It's often the most physically visible and sometimes the most alarming. Changes in breathing patterns and blood circulation. 5. Changes in breathing and circulation. Have you ever sat beside someone and noticed their breathing change? Slow, shallow breaths, followed by long pauses, or a sudden gasp for air in the middle of a conversation. Maybe their hands and feet feel colder than usual, or their fingertips start to turn pale or bluish. These aren't just quirks of aging. These are often the body's final cues, subtle but serious signs that the circulatory and respiratory systems are beginning to slow down. As a caregiver with more than a decade of experience, I've witnessed this transition many times. In the final stage of life, the body does something incredibly intelligent. It starts to pull back energy from the extremities to protect the vital organs. Blood circulation focuses inward. As a result, you'll often see cool skin, discoloration in the hands or feet, or mottled patterns appearing on the legs. These physical changes are not random. They're part of the body's natural way of preparing for release. The same goes for breathing. It may become labored, irregular, or shallow. Some people develop what's known as Cheyne-Stokes respiration, where fast, deep breaths alternate with moments of complete stillness. For loved ones watching, it can feel terrifying, but in many cases, it's not painful. It's simply the body easing into rest. I once cared for a woman who had always been strong, independent, and sharp. Toward her final weeks, she began breathing through her mouth more often, needing to sleep propped up with pillows, and taking frequent breaks while talking. Her daughter, tearfully, thought it was heart failure, but her doctor gently explained, it was the body's way of winding down. If someone you love is showing these signs, the best thing you can do isn't to panic, it's to be present. Keep the room calm and cool. Offer sips of water. Use a humidifier. Hold their hand. Speak gently, even if they can't respond. Sometimes silence, accompanied by love, is the most healing thing in the world. These changes in breathing and circulation are often the last chapter the body writes before it lets go. And now that you've seen all 5 signs, there's something important I want to leave you with. If you've made it this far, I want to thank you, from one heart to another. Because watching a video like this isn't easy. It means you care deeply about someone. It means you're willing to look at the hard truths that so many others avoid. Throughout this video, we've uncovered 5 subtle but powerful signs that may indicate a loved one is in the final year of life. Not to scare you, not to sadden you, but to help you recognize what so many families miss until it's too late. You see, when we recognize these changes early, we shift from reacting to preparing, from confusion to clarity, from helplessness to compassion. And the most powerful thing you can offer in this chapter of life isn't a cure, it's your presence. I've sat with sons who wished they had one more day, daughters who said, I didn't realize the silence meant something, grandchildren who whispered, if I had only known. This video is here so you don't have to say those words. So you can recognize the weight loss, the fatigue, the confusion, the infections, the breath. And instead of fear, offer comfort. Instead of rushing, offer rest. Instead of regret, offer love. If someone you care about is showing these signs, know that you're not alone. Many families are walking this same road, quietly, lovingly, imperfectly. And your presence, even in the smallest way, can make a bigger difference than you'll ever realize. So let me ask you, have you seen any of these signs in someone you love? Or maybe you've already walked through this journey. If so, I invite you to share your story in the comments below. Your experience might be the light someone else is looking for. And if this video spoke to you, if it opened your eyes or touched your heart, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell icon. That way, you won't miss the next message that might matter just as much. Because at the end of the day, life is fragile, but love is enduring. And sometimes, the greatest act of love is simply showing up.